You are listening to the BC Almanac podcast. I'm host Mark Forsyth. I hope you're enjoying the program. Well, here's a challenge. Seek out and sip the best bargain wines that you can. Travel to some of the world's most famous wineries and pick up some fascinating winemaking lore along the way. This was the mission for sommelier and wine journalist Natalie McLean, and her new book is called Unquenchable, A Tipsy Quest for the World's Best Bargain Wines. So we're wondering from our listeners, what is your favorite bargain wine? Is there a BC wine among them? Nudge, nudge. And any questions about trends in winemaking right now, whether it's the Malbec or the Pinot Noir, the blends, whatever it may be. Here's your chance to quiz Natalie, and we have a copy of her book to draw for as well. Here are the numbers to reach us: 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950, the cell phone star or pound 690, and welcome to BC Almanac today.
It's good to be here, Mark. Thank you.
Just in from the Okanagan, I hear.
I am, yeah.
Anything capture your palate there?
Oh, yeah. La Friends was the starting wine. As soon as I arrived, I was very thirsty. The Okanagan just does that for me. But no, speaking of bargain wines, I actually think that quite a few Okanagan wines are bargains.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is good to hear. Because some people have been complaining about Okanagan wines pricing themselves too high. But what's a bargain to you?
Well, good question. So bargain doesn't mean dirt cheap, the absolute cheapest. It means quality to price ratio. And so if you look at what the Okanagan is producing, and I think especially the Pinot Noirs, but even the robust reds, Cabernets, the Rieslings, if you take that and compare it to, say, benchmark wines from Burgundy or Bordeaux, you're going to pay twice as much over there for the quality that's in the bottle. So to me, they are bargains. They're not cheap, but they are bargains.
Yes, and so we're talking, what, $15 forward range?
Exactly. Now, if you talk about Pinot Noir, that's going to start around 2025, but they call it the heartbreak grape for a reason. It's tough to grow, it's expensive, but it's a gorgeous wine when it's well done.
You traveled to 8 different countries. How did you decide where you wanted to go to find the best bargain wines?
Well, I crowdsourced it. This is the big difference between writing a wine book today and 6 years ago, my first one. With Twitter and Facebook and my website, which is nataliemclean.com, I asked my own readers, where do you think the bargain wines are? And I got back thousands of responses. So I would start with 200 wineries per region, narrow it down to 40, go for about 10 days, 2 weeks to each region, hang out with 40 different winemakers, and then 3 per chapter end up in the book. The most colorful, passionate, obsessive winemakers I could find.
That's it, isn't it? The people in this industry are fascinating unto themselves. That's equally as interesting as the wines that you're talking about.
Exactly. And I think in telling the story of the people in wine, you can tell the story of wine itself far more interesting because you're going to learn about wine. But there are just so many colorful people. I don't know what it is about wine. It seems to be the sunny second career of a lot of people who have a lot of different world experiences and then bring this passion, this obsession for wine to it.
And in Australia, I think they're standing in a vineyard that it's 150 years old, these grapes. And it's the reverence they have for what they're working with, too, is a powerful thing.
Exactly. Well, the vines are 150 years old. I don't
They're
know
not
about the grapes.
But...
yeah. But, there's something, too, about that's generational and that comes from the land. And there's something special about that. And I think that's the reason why we do have wine critics and people passionate about wine. We don't have orange juice critics. There's something going on in that glass, but there's also something going on around the glass that's fascinating.
Who's a favorite character you met in Australia?
A wolf, Blass.
That's how you start the book, right?
Yeah, exactly. He is quite energetic. He's into his 70s, got the energy of a man half his age, and he's quite randy, too. He's quite provocative, but I loved it because he was colorful, he was upfront, just like his wines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Because he had an idea, didn't he, that was ahead of its time in how he was going to make wines?
Yes, to make and market them. Because he became just as well known for how he sold his wines as how he made them. And he
Great
realized...
marketer, right?
Exactly. He realized, people buy products from people. They want a story. And so he would go into airports and have himself paged over the intercom so that shoppers at duty-free stores would hear Wolf Blass Blass. Like at baseball games, he would talk to the cameraman and say, every time you focus on my winery sign, I'll be sitting there in the crowd. There's a case of wine in the trunk for you afterwards. So home run didn't matter. They had found his sign. And he was saying, he was just loving it.
That's how the industry works. Okay, 669-3733 to pose a question to Natalie McLean, and her book is called Unquenchable. It's her second book, and a tipsy quest for the world's best bargain wines. We'd like to hear about a favorite bargain wine for you. Maybe it's a BC wine, or maybe it's from Argentina, which has been coming on really strong, I think, in the last couple of years especially. 669-3733, 1-800-825-5950, and you'll perhaps win a copy of a real fun read from Natalie McLean. Maria in Vancouver. Hi, Maria.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Go ahead, please.
I have a favorite wine, budget wine, less than $20. It's called Gladiator. It's a Syrah from California. And when I buy wine, I tend to buy sometimes by the label. Mm-hmm. And this one has a naked lady riding a bicycle with long flowing red hair.
I love that image. Most of us do buy wine by the label, Maria, because, wine's one of those special purchases. You can try on a dress, you can read the first chapter of a book, but you can't usually taste a wine, at least legally, in the store before you buy it. So it's good that you discovered something, and I think there's nothing wrong with shopping by the label. It's fun, but you've made a very, very good choice. Syrah from California is a bargain because you're not paying up big for like a Cabernet or Chardonnay, those brand name grapes. So you've discovered something good there, I think.
Fantastic. And then, the label's always an asset too, right?
Absolutely. It's good dinner party chatter. It's a story. We want a story.
Definitely. Great.
Okay, Maria, thank you for the suggestion, and good luck on our little draw, too. And you talk a fair amount about this in the book. What the soil brings to individual grapes in areas like California or in Germany with some of the sweeter wines. But maybe tell us a bit about that. How a region defines what you can really grow.
Sure. Soils make a big difference, and you can dive into that as technically as you want to, but basically different soils have different sort of drainage factors and will take away the water quickly from the vines. You want vines to suffer. Suffering is good. It's character building in wine. And so what you're looking for is the opposite of just about any other agriculture. If you're growing tomatoes or lettuce or whatever, you want rich soils, lots of rain, all that sort of thing. With vines, you want them to really have to struggle because they will dive down with their roots and pick up all these nuances, and it really adds to the complexity of the wine.
Even like shale, or the character of the stone will come through in the wine.
Exactly. Yeah, they call that minerality, and sometimes you find it hard to define, or what is that? But if you think about a spring rain and when the rocks are all wet and you smell the sort of the earth, you kind of get that in some of these wines, like especially those German wines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue with our listeners too and their suggestions. We'll get more from Natalie herself, some more bargain wines. Sylvia in Fort St. John in our Peace River region. Hi, Sylvia.
Oh, hi there.
Please go ahead.
I would like to nominate an Argentina wine. It's a Malbec, and I can't remember the name really well, but it's a Paso. It's about $14.99 in the liquor store.
Sure. Would it be Alamos?
Yes, I believe that's the one.
Yay, bingo.
Yeah, I really like that
That's
one.
a great one, Sylvia. It's made by Catina, which makes higher-end wines as well, but that's the beauty of Argentine Malbec. It can start as low as $10-12, and then you can go up if you want to higher prices. But what do you like about that Malbec in particular?
I don't know. It's
Full
yummy.
bodied?
It's really rich. And
Yummy. I love that technical term. I use it all the time. It is a great wine.
Yeah.
And for a while, as you point out in the book, Argentinian wines were scoffed at, weren't they?
Yes, they were pretty grim. And so that's a good way to find bargain wines. A country that is reestablishing itself. Malbec is kind of the hot new thing. It has been for a few years.
Yes.
But, they've really tried hard to turn around the wine image for the country, and they're doing a spectacular job.
And that's a French grape originally, isn't
That's
it?
right.
That was brought over to South America.
Exactly. It's part of that traditional Bordeaux blend of 5 grapes, including Cabernet, but Malbec is in there. It tends to produce a nice, robust, fleshy red, dark fruited wine. It's absolutely delicious.
And what's favorite food that you would pair that flavor with?
Oh, a big juicy steak or any sort of meaty dish. You got to bring it on with robust flavors.
Sylvia, thank you for the call. Let's go next to Joanne in the Okanagan at Vernon. Joanne.
Hi.
Hi there.
I just wanted to tell you guys about my favorite red, which is Apothic Red.
Ah, yes.
It's from California, and it's really fruity and Vanilla. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the vanilla really comes out. And I really like it. It's a blend.
Yes, yeah, Apothic is terrific. The relatively new brand from California, and that vanilla is from the toasty oak that they use on it, which I think is just nicely balanced with the dark fruit, don't you find?
Oh, awesome, yeah. I don't like really oaky wine, but this is just whatever. I don't know what kind of oak they use, but
absolutely.
I like it.
What do you eat with it?
Oh, anything.
Yeah.
What's the price range? What's the price range, Joanne?
I think it's only around $10 or $12.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's very reasonable.
Yeah.
Very reasonable. So how can BC wineries compete with that kind of price?
You can't, but I don't think they want to either, because we make a different style in both the Okanagan and Niagara. What you've got is a cool climate. California has a warm climate, and so it's going to produce those fleshy wines like Apothic or the Malbecs from Argentina. But when you want something that has a nervy energy, some acidity, some mouth-watering action going down along your mouth, that's when BC and Ontario really play full tilt to your senses. So that's why Pinot Noir, I wouldn't go with a Pinot Noir from Argentina. It would be too fruity, fatty, flabby, whatever.
Hardship is good for the Pinot Noir.
Exactly, but hardship is what makes a wine more expensive, and so it's just that's what it is.
It costs
cost
more
factor.
to produce,
exactly,
and you can't grow as much, I guess.
But it's a different style, and it's a style that a lot of people love. But yes, you will pay a bit more for it.
I was speaking to Jürgen Goth briefly yesterday about this, in fact, about why BC wines are a little pricier to some, but he's saying it's exactly what you just said. It costs more to actually make the wine, so consumers have to accept that too when they're going to put the money on the line.
Yeah, so think of the weather down in Argentina, Chile. It's sunny, there's no rot, mildew, pests. We have to fight all of that up here, but when it works, it's splendid.
Joanne, good luck in the draw for Unquenchable, a tipsy quest for the world's best bargain wines. And I should give you a chance to tell us about more favorites from spin around the globe here. Germany, what's a favorite bargain wine from Germany?
Oh, well, I got on the Autobahn with Dr. L, Ernie Lusen, who is very passionate about German Riesling. That zippy white wine, makes your mouth water, terrific with fish, seafood, salads. But German Rieslings, of course, they're recovering from a bit of a grim reputation still.
Liebfraumilch and the whole thing.
Yes. Don't say that word to Ernie. He gets really upset. But, those brands that we had 10, 20, 30 years ago, I guess. Syrupy white stuff, back of the high school portable. But, that's always a good section to look for if a country is trying to revitalize their reputation. So you've got Dr. L Riesling, which is $14. You've got Lingenfelder, $14. I mean, they're just wonderful light wines, low in alcohol. So, you can enjoy them over an evening. They're terrific. France, I would go down south. So that's another tip. So when you've got that fashionable up north, Bordeaux, Burgundy, go down to either Languedoc or Provence. In Italy, the same thing would be Piedmont, Tuscany. Go down to Sicily, and you're going to get the bargains. They've been producing wines for hundreds of years, but they don't have the reputation as their, the same as their northern neighbor. So, in Languedoc, there's very big, robust red wines, and then Provence has the dry rosés. They're wonderful.
We're back to the phones. Jack is phoning us from Victoria. Favorite bargain wine, Jack?
It's a Lindemann Cabernet Merlot Kawara.
Uh-huh.
And it runs at about $9 a bottle, and it is a favorite of a number of my friends and me. And we really enjoy that. There's also a Shiraz under the same label, but I don't enjoy that as much as the Merlot.
You can't beat that price. That's a terrific Australian wine.
Yeah, and a German white that we ran across, it was the guy that built my house that put me onto it, and it was Langenbach Cabinet mit Predicat, and for $9.99 currently.
Wow.
That's a great white wine, and it's good with, almost anything, as is the Kawara.
Yeah, those are terrific. Cabinet tells you there's a touch of sweetness, but a lot of foods we eat these days have that sweetness, whether it's glazed ham or sweet potatoes or whatever. So Rieslings really work well.
You talk about the difference between Syrah and Shiraz.
Right.
And there's no difference.
No.
But we hear both, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same grape originally, but they took on different names in different regions. So you go down to California, they're going to call it Syrah because they feel their style is more in keeping with France for some reason. Over in Australia, though, they feel Shiraz is easier to produce. It's more food friendly. The Australians really were the first to make us think about wine as liquid food, very accessible. Their whole approach is like that. Shiraz is a lot easier to say.
It is. Jack, thank you. And we're at about 13 minutes before 1, and Natalie McLean is here. She's the author of Unquenchable and actually has an event coming up in Vancouver, 21st of November, right?
That's right. We'll be over at the Fairmont Pacific Rim. We're going to do a sampling and tasting of different wines and cheeses. It's going to be great, and people do get a signed copy of the book included with their ticket.
We have a link to Natalie's webpage on our webpage, by the way. Sharon, now in Delta. Hello, Sharon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Please go ahead.
Hi. Well, I do totally agree with you on the south of France dry rosés. I just love those in the summer. But I'm going to recommend another French wine. It's a Palmas Viognier.
Oh, yes.
And
That's
it's
terrific.
just delicious and a bargain.
And how much is it?
It's well under $14, $15.
Oh, that's great. Viognier is a lovely aromatic white wine. What do you like to eat with the Viognier?
Well, anything.
Yeah, more Viognier. Yeah, no, it's terrific. Asian dishes or anything with a bit of spice, Viognier does really well with it.
The rosés, they're coming back, aren't they?
They are. There's another
Matisse
example.
kind of killed off the rosé years ago. But
exactly.
Another example of what you're talking about?
That's right, revitalizing a reputation. Provence, interestingly enough, people don't realize, but Provence doesn't produce anything but dry rosé. There are no sweet rosés. So when you see Provence on the label, or even Tavel from the Rhone Valley, you know you're getting something that is bone dry, refreshing, lots of flavor, no heavy alcohol or oak or tannin. So I think it's the best of all worlds for a true hedonist.
Sharon, thanks for the call. Enjoy and sip responsibly, of course. We have to mention that. John in Roslyn. John.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Just fine.
I just a couple of under $15 bottles that I enjoy. One is a Chilean wine, Vina Maipo. It's a Carmenere.
Right.
That's usually $12.99, and then a Australian Nugent Shiraz, which is $10.99.
Terrific.
And then just a couple of BC wineries. I like anything that Bill Eggert from Fairview produces. Mm-hmm. And Blue Mountain Pinot Noir.
Oh, yes.
And I know they're not in the same price category, but they're definitely favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at the quality of a Blue Mountain Pinot Noir and compare it to Burgundy again, it's still a bargain. But going back to the Carmenere you mentioned, John, that's a fabulous wine. And it's originally Merlot rootstock that came from Bordeaux. So there again, you've got an unfashionable or lesser-known brand grape name that isn't a brand, and you're going to pay less for it. They're luscious.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you, John. Good luck, too, in our draw coming up here for the book very soon in the last couple of minutes that we'll have for the show. Bob in Vancouver wants to add to this discussion. Bob?
Hi there.
Hi.
Well, mine isn't so much a recommendation or so, because we're sort of in a phase where we're trying as many different wines as we can. But I often find the bargains are in the varietals that we don't always hear. Like instead of grabbing like the Shiraz or the Cab or the Merlot, look for a region that's maybe got a red or a white that is something that we haven't seen before, and often those prices are better.
Absolutely. Do you have an example of your favorite?
I don't have a favorite right now, but what we've been trying a fair bit of is looking for Spanish wines that are maybe not from like the region like Rioja or what, but are from smaller ones that are just, as you've mentioned, trying to get better known, and so they're putting more out there that we don't always see.
Absolutely, and their flagship grape is Tempranillo, so that's not very familiar, and you're not going to pay as much for it.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then we also seem like a lot of the Italian areas as well, and then some Greek ones, although we don't tend to see a lot of that there. But it's nice to just sort of try. Just if it is only under $20, then maybe you're a little more willing to try something and then go back to it.
Absolutely, it's pretty low risk.
Okay. Thanks, Bob, for the suggestion, too. We have Kareem online from Ucluelet. Hi.
Hi.
A favorite wine?
I like two from this little vineyard I found this summer called Granite Creek Estate Winery out in Salmon Arm.
Granite Creek in Salmon
Granite
Arm?
Creek
Okay.
is a little bit obscure, I think, but it's worth finding. They have a beautiful Viognier that's very, summer fruits, pears and apricots, and it's buttery, it's creamy.
Now you're talking like Natalie.
Yeah, you're making us thirsty.
Yeah, and the second one they have is a blend, a Cabernet and a Syrah.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's just very smooth and bold and fruity, and both are under $25.
Good.
Jürgen was saying BC is becoming more noted for blends.
Yes,
Have you been seeing that too?
Absolutely. And blends are a bit of safety insurance for both the winemaker and the wine consumer. So if your Merlot didn't ripen as much as your Cabernet, you can sort of blend out the differences over years and get that consistent quality, especially if you are trying to hit a certain price point.
Thank you for that, Kareem. And in our last couple of minutes, a couple of people waiting yet. Dave in Surrey. Dave?
Hello.
Hi there.
My recommendation is from Lang's Vineyard in Naramata. It's one of my particular favorites, the Maréchal Foch.
Oh, yes. There's another obscure grape that's very tasty. Yeah, big, robust reds from Maréchal Foch. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Got another one?
Goes down, well, not particular, but that one goes down very well with a beef bourguignon.
Oh, that's a good pairing.
And the Naramata bench is becoming quite renowned, isn't it, for
Yeah,
producing some pretty special wines?
It is, yeah. And that's a traditional sort of North American hybrid grape, but it makes terrific wines.
Indeed.
Thanks, Dave. You're in the draw, okay? And we have a couple of more names to put in there. Ray in Kelowna. It's nice to hear some BC wines nominated. What would you suggest,
Well,
Ray?
I do like some of the VC wines, but I like more Chilean and Argentinian, and also one from Australia that I really like is called Chook Shed Shiraz.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the 2009 is very nice. The 2008 I think was better, but it's every year is a different vintage, right? So
yeah. And what price were you paying for that one?
That one was $14 or $14.99 maybe.
Yeah, that's great.
Someone suggested that to me a few months ago, and it was a good investment.
Yeah.
I must say. Thanks for that suggestion, Ray. Okay. And I'm going to put you on the spot now. Ontario, BC. Who's making the better wines right now?
I'm in BC. BC, no. You know what? I like the fact that Ontario and BC produce, to my taste, very different styles. And the principle is the same in terms of the bargains. Neither are dirt cheap. But, from BC, I love the rich, robust reds that I don't think we can do as well in Ontario. From Ontario, I like the Pinots from both. So I guess BC wins.
Oh,
yeah.
And ice wines, too. We haven't touched on ice wines.
That's true.
Both regions are noted internationally, aren't they?
Exactly. And those aren't cheap either, but compare them to Bordeaux Sauternes. A Chateau Yquem, you're going to pay triple for that kind of quality ice wine, or dessert wine, I should say.
They're being knocked off in China now. What are some of the names that you observed?
Oh, I know. Oh, my gosh. There's some strange ones that combine... there was one that combined Whistler and Toronto with an OW on the end of it. It was like, okay, at least spell check, people, if you're going to fake this the right way.
Chateau Woodchuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Josh in Vancouver. Hello, Josh.
Hi there. I just wanted to mention some Pelee Island wines. I find them incredibly cheap. It's hard to find it here in British Columbia, but back in Ontario, they make ice wines and they make blends and et cetera. I was just curious if your guests had any info on Pelee Island wines.
Oh, Pelee Island, yeah. They do a wide variety of wines, and I love their Gewürztraminer. Have you ever tried that sort of spicy white wine?
No, I haven't tried that one.
Oh, it's one worth trying, and their prices are incredibly low. Like, I think that Gewürztraminer clocks in under $10, at least in Ontario, so I'm not sure how the prices translate. But, yeah, no, they have, and they have all the birds, the flora and fauna on their labels. You can look for that. Quite a good winery.
Thanks, Josh, for the call. And we should be watching Quebec, I would think, because haven't they won some awards? And their estate winery industry is starting to take off now.
It is. The Eastern Townships in particular. So they excel at dry white wines and, of course, the ice wines. And what they have that is quite vibrant, quite good are the ice ciders, made from apples, but they're delicious. They're like pie in a glass. They're you don't even need dessert with those.
Could be another book.
There you go.
Thanks so much for this, Natalie.
Oh, my pleasure.
Good to meet you, Natalie McLean. And her book is called Unquenchable, A Tipsy Quest for the World's Best Bargain Wines. And we'll get her to sign this copy for John from Rossland. He phoned in and he gets the free copy, which I'll hand over and she can sign to John right now. Thank you so much. And we do have a link to Natalie's website on our BC Almanac webpage. In fact, if you would like to find out more about the tasting and the pairing with wine and cheese coming up November 21st in Vancouver.
Looking for more CBC podcasts? Go to cbc.ca/podcasting.